What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second album by rapper DaBaby. Basically, this project is called Kirk, and it came out in the fall of 2019. So the thing about this particular project is I was kind of late on the train to I was kind of late on the train as far as seeing what DaBaby was about back in those days when this was particularly popular 5 years ago, 5.5 as far as those bitches going to happen. DaBaby had a pretty large 2019 from what I remember. His debut album was Baby on Baby in early 2019, but then the pitch behind it, he dropped this particular project. I do remember like the afterthoughts. He was big on Instagram pitches like that. This was a solitary IG life type one to kind of get, in particular Snapchat, some of those type fairs, just social media type fair like Migos Culture and Future's Dirty Sprite 2, some of those type folks. But this was a particular kickoff type project, seemingly, at least in my, this is a particular kickoff project seemingly for like the way that like 2020s, the early 2020s was starting to happen just within those pitches. Now look, after DaBaby, his popularity in the fall of 2019 is a lot different from his popularity in the fall of 2024, which I look after. It's just kind of the pitch that, yeah, DaBaby was definitely doing some dope things. The song, I want to say he was the one that did the song Rockstar with, maybe it was Roddy Ricch. I remember that was a big pandemic song on like Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok, some of those type places. But pretty much after about the fall of 2020, I want to say like DaBaby's brother died. I want to say that like DaBaby's brother died around that particular time, the fall of 2020, and he just kind of went through like some slag eras as far as those pitches kind of happened. But I look, after just being able to say, I know he dropped a collaboration album either in 2021 or 2022, and there were some other type things, like I know he dropped like a Baby on Baby 2. I remember like seemingly some of these type ones, but it just felt like DaBaby's come up and just his particular blockade of his strongest albums were between like 2019 to about early 2021 as far as those pitches kind of happened. He did some songs to Megan Thee Stallion from what I remember, but I'm just going to start messing with some of these to kind of see the hubbub about what was particularly about with some of these type concepts, just questioning the pitch behind them. But this is a pretty rock solid type album here. I like the concept of what was kind of going along for the longest while between like Lil Baby, DaBaby, and probably like Roddy Ricch. There was like a trifecta of folks between like about 2019 to about 2021 or late 2021, where these folks were like the face of rap, kind of like Kendrick, or kind of like Jeezy, Lil Wayne, and T.I. in like the mid-late 2000s, and like Future and Chief Keef and 2 Chainz and some of those type folks in the early 2010s and folks like that, just within the pitch behind it. But it's just a good concept here, because this might as well be like a banner kind of late 2010s, early 2020s type This might as well be like a banner kind of late 2010s, early 2020s project. This came out right before the pandemic from the COVID. This came out right before the pandemic and the COVID years kind of particularly kind of happened. But I look at it as just a very awkward type era in trap music as far as those pitches kind of happened. Lil Baby was kind of bopping around this time. I want to say he actually hadn't dropped his debut album yet either. This is kind of the pitch. It's just some good concepts here, just being able to see a lot of this. This was the particular type sound back when Migos were in their prime. You had folks like YK Osiris and, you know, Lil Baby, obviously Moneybagg Yo, Gunna, Future. Some of these type folks were just kind of left and right doing some of these particular type times. It's just an interesting type pitch. You know, I was doing Acid Roots around this particular time. It was kind of here and there back in 2019, but I do somewhat here and there kind of remember these particular type times. So I was paying a lot more attention to folks like Cut Calhoun and Broken Side and some of those type of folks, Deuce and some of those type of folks just within the pitches behind it. But I did know at least of some of these, because a lot of Instagram folks were kind of messing with this in full-blown display. So this is like one of the banner ones, like when you think of like a hit album from like the 2000s out of rap music, like T.I.'s King or Young Dro's Best Thing Smokin', Ludacris's Release Therapy, Rick Ross's Port of Miami, some of those type ones. This is kind of one of those banner ones for like at least the past 5 or 6 years, I'd say. It's just a good concept, very iconic within the pitch. Now, I would say iconic football. It's not going to get a classic score, but it is going to get a relatively high score just within the pitch. I definitely see the appeal behind it, but it does have like a few relative duds on here that kind of slowed down the progress. But for the most part, this is a pretty heavy-hitting type project. So, and a lot of this is still pretty contemporary within a lot of fairs behind it. I do look after the aspect of being able to say that it does have a lot of thump and a lot of this, despite the fact that it's half a decade old now. I look at within the pitch, it does have some pretty good appeal, just like some gloss about it that carries over. But, you know, it's just kind of, that's another thing just to be able to say, is just trap music. It just seemingly is a little bit different. DaBaby, like I said, has been having problems in like the mid-2020s. You know, obviously folks like, you know, Young Thug and Gunna and some of these type folks are just kind of struggling with some of these aspects of the people that were popping this back in 2019, 2020, 2021. It's different from what it is 2023 2024. So this is kind of the pitch, but I'm going to try to cover some of these to kind of close the gap and see what I can figure out with some ones that would be kind of viral just within the pitch behind it. But basically, intro is the first single, and I don't recommend this song. Just have to say, this is just kind of a more homely type one. It's kind of more localized type fare to standard commerce, just within the pitch. A blue collar type one, which is not a problem. It's just within the pitch. It's just a little bit more gospel like and homely, just within the aspect. It's not really. It's just a relatively steadfast type one that just doesn't have like a lot of good appeal of really doing much turn up. Just basically maybe paying simple bills, just getting some errands done. Not really much in mind as far as wanting to really do much of any sort of contemporariness, but it's just, I mean, it's a decent song just for like some gratefulness to kind of have just within the appreciation. I would say just within the tone, if you're just in a more grateful type mood and you're just feeling good, got a good paycheck, just enjoying yourself as far as those pitches kind of happen. But I just look after the tone, it just doesn't really have too much affability behind too many times I would listen to it. So that's just kind of the concept. But Bop is a pretty nice one. This is like an exotic kind of dusky local get together tune to kind of get some basic dap and red cup type music to kind of get here. It exhilarates. I would definitely feel like a good primer for some stuff, and it's like a vanilla kind of late 2010s loud pack to kind of get here. That's just kind of the tone. It is interesting the sheer amount of local songs that are kind of on this particular product. It does have like some more around the neighborhood type fare comparatively. It does have some more neighborhood type fare comparing, like I would have figured that DaBaby would have had a lot more heavy knock and just more nightclub pounders around that particular time. But this is a pretty nice one, just to be honest. It's an exotic type one. Reminds me of something that 2 Chainz did within the past couple of years. Good pitch for that. This would have to say. Vibes is a quality one. This is like a similar woozy kind of head trip kind of dap music to kind of get here. It's good music to some good dap music to kind of bop to. I would definitely feel like this is like a brewing kind of standard evening kind of smoke a few type tune to kind of get, and it's a good song to fraternize to, just within the concepts. The same type fare is within a song like Bop. It's the same sort of pitch, just not quite as exotic as Bop, but just within the same atmosphere, just kind of house party type fare. Some stellar kind of congregate type music just within the particular tone behind it. So it's just, I mean, a lot of these do have like some pretty hella thump and just overall knock about it just within the aspect, but a lot of this just feels like house party type fare, and these are some good type ones kind of get here, some good pitches for that. So that's the concept of the singles. I mean, it's relatively straightforward. I realize that these song titles are pretty much a good handful of these are one word type songs just within the pitch behind, but these songs do have a lot of pretty superb type appeal. So basically, out of 13 songs on this particular album, I wound up recommending 10.5. I wound up recommending 10.5. So the only 2 songs I don't recommend on here would just be basically gospel and intros. That's just kind of the pitch. To talk about gospel real quick, basically what you see is what you get with this particular song. It really does feel like a gospel type song. It's just a more kind of, not necessarily full-blown religious, but just a lot more homely and just churchy kind of tone to like the song intro. They're both kind of more homely type ones that just have a little bit more simmered down type aspect, more just settled down just within the pitch of just being more homely and straightforward. It's interesting that DaBaby at least had the aspect of trying to aim for like some commercial vibe, trying to be like the forefront of like trap music for like the 2020s, but it's just kind of the tone that some of these just don't really have much affableness just within the tone behind it. A lot of these, it just kind of feels like Meek Mill's Amen off of his Dreams and Nightmares album, where it's a decent song for like some of that churchy type appeal, but it just doesn't really have the bite of something that probably should have been. It kind of felt like a waste of like a chance. It felt like a waste of like a Chance the Rapper, Gucci Mane, and YK Osiris. It felt like a waste of like a Chance the Rapper, Gucci Mane, and YK Osiris features as far as those pitches kind of happen. So it's just kind of the tone within it. But then the almost song is Toes. Now this has Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo on there. This would have been a pretty good pitch. This is, well, it's a solid enough pitch. It reminds me of Jason Derulo's Wiggle song from like the mid 2010s. I'd have to say just a hell of a torch kind of nightclub brewer. I would definitely feel like a good dance gem, but it's just somewhat iffy with like the overall delivery of how the production fair and this overall execution of the song kind of went. I feel like if Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo had probably been on a song like Probably Heard, I think that probably would have hit a lot heavier. Or like a song like, and just if they had been on a song like Really with Stunna for Vegas, some of those types of ones, or even like Bop or Off the Rip, one of those type of ones. I just feel like the song, I don't know, I like the budget behind this particular product. Some of these ones hit heavier than the ones that do, but I just kind of feel like it's just questionable. Some of the ones, like I do appreciate the sound, but this is kind of within the pitch that I feel like the magnitude of the way that these artists should have been on the songs is not as on full-blown display as it probably needed. Like it made sense to throw Nicki Minaj on the more pop rap kind of Post Malone type song within that pitch, but Kevin Gates on Popstar was kind of a questionable one. I feel like the Chance the Rapper, Gucci Mane, and YK Osiris song on Gospel was kind of a waste of one. And Migos was at least on the right song, but I feel like Lil Baby, Moneybagg Yo, and Stunna for Vegas probably should have been on some switched up different type ones. But it's within the ton. It's good that they're on here, but it's just kind of the pitch. These are good songs, but Toes is kind of an almost song. So talk about the songs I recommend on here. So Popstar is a good song, despite what I was saying about with Kevin Gates. I just think he probably should have been on something a little bit heavier. Because seemingly like Kevin Gates is like a more drill type rapper, just more traditional type trap. So it's just a different tone, but this is like a blurry kind of commercial bite, I would say, about this one. Just a taste of pop trap kind of makeshift, I'd have to say. Some standard day commerce with like some thump, I'd have to suppose. So it's just a good concept, just some Target runs, some Starbucks runs, some Panera Bread type runs, a standard vanilla type fare, just within that standard makeshift, just with a lot of thump about it. It's just kind of the concept of just having some of that tone, but just having knock for your vehicle as far as those pitches can happen, just having the turn up, having a solid budget to be able to say, I'll do the makeshift, but I just want to have that loud pack as far as that pitch kind of goes. It's a good concept for that as far as that kind of goes. That same sort of pitch is kind of with iPhone. Just this one's a little bit more traditional and like vanilla for like pop trap, just more so than Popstar. I'd say they're both like a good 1-2 punch for more commercial type. Popstar and iPhone are both like a good 1-2 punch for pop trap type fare as far as that goes. It's like a crisp kind of brushy pop trap grab. I'd have to say about this one. iPhone is like a commercial. This definitely is commercial, and it reminds me of Post Malone. I would definitely have to say one of his songs like Psycho, or one of those ones from Beer Bongs and Bentleys. I would definitely have to say this is like a makeshift kind of cruise around to kind of get here. So it's just within the pitch behind it. Pretty good concept that DaBaby is able to pull off some of these type of vibes and basically be like the same type of version that Post Malone kind of does. I think for a while there, if he had dropped more albums like this, kind of within the fare behind it, originally he was going to have that particular tone where he probably could have definitely been like a face of rap music for a good while. I mean, he was, but it was just the concept. I just don't know what happened to DaBaby after about early 2021. It's just kind of the concept behind it, that just the fare, because it just felt like right around the time when he had his, personal issues as far as those pitches kind of happened. It was also the concept of when he kind of particularly kind of fell off. So it's just within the pitch behind it that it just felt like he kind of got shunned a little bit. And this is a pretty solitary album here. It does have more gems than you would think on here. It does have more gems on here because I realized that DaBaby was kind of a product of like mumble rap, and one of the forefront of ones that people probably had a problem with around that time, you know, with folks like Young Thug and Gunna and some of those type of folks, Moneybagg Yo, Lil Baby, some of these type ones. But look after some good stuff. So Raw Shit with Migos is a pretty nice one. It's like a leering kind of vintage Zaytoven-esque kind of Migos sound to kind of get here. A good concept as a throwback to like the mid 2010s that like Migos kind of does. Good house party noise kind of get here, and this goes well with Really, I'd have to say. So it's a good pitch for that. At least Takeoff is on this particular song. I was able to say, it says that Migos was a part of this, but I at least caught the Takeoff verse as far as those pitches kind of happen. It was just a good pitch to kind of get DaBaby with some of these type fares. It's a good concept. This is a real knocking type one. This feels like some mixtape type fare as far as that would particularly kind of happen, just within the pitch of being able to get some of that particular type turn up. Off the Rip is a nice one. It's like a thumping kind of hella bass kind of local jump, I would have to say about this. Hole in the Wall type club music to kind of get here. So it's just more local type fares, some skeletal trap, but it slaps pretty hard to kind of get. I feel like just the jumpiness of Off the Rip is probably one of the best songs off this particular album. Definitely needs to be at the beginning of this product as far as those pitches can happen. This probably could have been a pretty solitary single. I'd have to say this would have worked real well. I think this probably should have been the single instead of intro. I mean, I think the pitch behind it, just saying intro, is just trying to have like a little bit of commercial and vanilla type bite to kind of get here. But I probably would have went with Popstar or something like that. I think DaBaby was just aiming for like a more homely type aspect to kind of have that centered kind of makeshift grab type tone, but it's just within the pitch that it just didn't have the compellingness. But Off the Rip is definitely like it's one of the album's best songs. And another of the album's best songs is Probably Her. This is a real extremely good one. It's like a brooding kind of quality Eastern like groove, and by that I mean like more, you know, on the east side of the globe, places like, you know, past Russia, China, Japan, some of those type places, just within the tone, just has an Eastern type. It really works pretty well for that. It's like a great unwind from like a standard Dreer, I'd have to say. And this is a good song to smoke up some good to as far as those pitches kind of happen. So it's just kind of the pitch. Really like the brooding type quality of this. Just kind of maybe relatively work with somewhat of a bitch today. Just need some, or like, damn, I need some loud right now. Just some pitches like that. Just being able to say it's time to get crunk a little bit and just forget about work for the day as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just get towards it, call up the homies, figure out where the bellas are at, as far as those pitches kind of happen, just within the tone behind it. There's some good good kind of initial turn up here. Really was Stunna for Vegas. Don't know what happened to him kind of within the pitch behind it. He's a name I just question about, but it's a pretty dope song kind of get here. It's like a jivey kind of trap groove. like a jivey kind of trap groove kind of get. Quality dance song, I'd have to say. Goes well with Off the Rip. I would definitely feel like this like a buzzing kind of kick things up a notch type tune kind of get, and this song's definitely some heat. Yeah, it really is just some mess hall kind of socialized type music kind of get. Definitely a good frat tune, kind of have the initial kind of dap and just pitch just like that, I'd have to say. Good tone for that. XXL is a pretty nice one, or double XL just within the tone behind it. It's like a trap snarl of a tone to kind of get here. It's some definite kind of trap snarls. A tone switch up, I would feel like, and it has like a vanilla kind of ghastly sound, I would feel like, definitely. Great for hella vehicle knock to definitely kind of say, and it's like some grim kind of stunt tunes kind of get. So it's just within the pitch. Standard vehicle knock, like some of these type ones, like Off the Rip, Bop, Vibe, some of these type ones, Pop Star definitely, just within the pitch behind it, but just kind of the concept of just being in a more grim type sense. So DaBaby doesn't really cross over into horrorcore, but it's just at least a good song if you do want something for late September, October, November. It's a good pitch, kind of has some of that within a relatively late 2010s trap, but in a relative kind of horror sense. Lil Baby is a little bit more doing that particular type sound, but it is a good pitch, kind of get DaBaby at least trying to cross over into that to see what's up with it. Good concept there. And then there he goes, a nice one. This like an in-between kind of haunting stroll around type music, just more local kind of gas station run type tunes. Just reminds me of Lil Baby sound from like his mixtape days, I'd have to say. And it's like some gas station goodies of a song kind of get here. Pick up some Swishers, some Backwoods, stuff like that. Frozen burritos, some of that type ness. Get some Butterfingers, some Twix, some of those type fares, just some good pitches. Standard ness, just kind of get some of that turn up as far as those pitches kind of having just a good concept for some of that. Good aspect with a lot of these. So I want to say I covered every other song on this particular product, I'd have to say. So yeah, I just look after it. So the particular pitch I'm going to give me recommending 10 and a half songs out of 13 on here, which is basically the concept. If it had been 12 out of 13, would have gotten a 10. So this album's going to get like an 8.75 out of 10. So this album's going to get an 8.75 out of 10. It's pretty much on the cusp, damn near 9 out of 10 and above type territory, just within the pitch behind it. If I had been more sold on like the song Toes, I would have known full blown as to more oftenly I'd listen to that song, it'd probably be like a 9.25, something like that. But I just look after the tones, just kind of within the almost aspect behind it. But you know, basically 10 songs out of 13 is still pretty damn quality just within the pitch behind it. That's a lot on here, and I definitely would say some of the immediate ones I would go for. Some of the absolute best ones would be Off the Rip, Bop. I feel like Probably Heard is a real excellent type one. Raw Shit with Migos really goes in pretty heavily. I'd have to say it's a real excellent type fare. I do like the in-between type fare. There he go, to some gas station run type music and like a relative kind of brushy type fare, some of those type ones. Toes has a relative aspect about it within a certain sense. If you are getting slogged and hella tore up as far as those pitches going to happen, there are some pop rap type grabs on here within a relative pitch. But that's just kind of the tone behind it. So the social score, I'll probably give the social score like a solid 9 out of 10. I look within the pitch behind it. Has enough appeal on here. It's just within the concept. I think that does have some relative knock about it. I kind of, like I said, I feel like Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo probably should have been on a song like Off the Rip, or even they probably should have been on a song like Off the Rip or something similar to that particular type song. Like the aspect behind this product is just the fact that you get some club bops on here, but it's not really like heavy clubbing type pitch within the tone behind it. Like the dance club songs are kind of not in as much of abundance, apart from like the song Really and possibly Bop and some of those type of one, or not, apart from like the song Really. That's really about as far as like the full-blown kind of nightclub type step outs as far as those pitches going to happen. It just doesn't really have like the hella get tore up and just kind of flash and stunt, and doesn't really have like the full-blown flex songs. I mean, the vehicle knock is definitely on here just within the pitch behind it, but it's just not as much. Like when you think of nightclub, like when you think of a song like Jumpman by Drake and Future, as far as those pitches going to happen, just some of those type ones. There's not really like a song like Jumpman or like Big Rings or some of those type pitches, just being able to say some of that. But it does have like a lot of local house party type fare and some pop rap grabs and pitches like that. So I just say solid 9 is good enough pitch just to be able to get some of that localized type fare, some good turn ups and gas station runs, just more residential type fare within a trap and kind of heavy knock type. Since it's basically like being local with a budget, I'd have to say. It's just a good concept just within the pitch, because it's not broke music, but it's just within the tone that's just more neighborhood type fare. So I look after a good touch for that. But yeah, in terms of the future, like DaBaby, I'm not really sure his full blown what he's been up to. He might have dropped a project recently as far as those pitches gonna happen, not as full blown sure. I look after, he does have a series of projects, and there are some ones that he kind of dropped just even despite the fact that he wasn't on as much full blown display. Like the early years of DaBaby, or him and his most commercial buy, he kind of had some problems with like his Bay, and he kind of had some problems with like his flame Danny Lee and some pitches like that, and he kind of got some arrests and just abrasive kind of headlines and like this like some abrasive kind of headlines and scandals and arrests as far as those pitches going to happen. But I just look after within the tone. He did at least drop music throughout the early 2020s, and there are some other fairs. But I'm going to get to some of these other type ones like Baby on Baby from early 2019. Some of these other type ones, the one with Rockstar on there, as far as those pitches going to happen. But pretty rock solid album here, just to be able to say it's definitely better than it is. And I wouldn't listen to the flag as far as hater. I wouldn't listen to the flag as far as the hate that this particular album got. It is pretty solitary here, just within the pitch, and it does have quite a few gems just within the pitch, but it is a local and kind of more residential this turn up as far as those pitches kind of go, which is dope.